Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining today's session of What's Next for Appraisal, where we're discussing mobile direction. I'm Kimberly Angelin, Program Director at ACI, and I will be your host. I'm also joined by my co-host, the ever so brilliant Evelyn Schallberger, who is the Product Manager for ACI's Appraisal line of business. And you may notice that we have a special guest joining us today. We are joined by Kevin Chung. He is the Senior Product Manager here at ACI, and he is the perfect person for this topic. Kevin has been an appraiser for years, many years, and has worked on some key mobile technologies currently utilized in the industry today. He understands mobile from both sides of the business, the reality of the inspection and the reality of building software that appraisers actually trust. It would be really great if I could say appraisal and appraiser today. That would be fantastic. All right, so some quick housekeeping before we get started. This is listen only town hall. So you may notice that microphones and video is disabled. You can go ahead and submit questions though at any time. There's a Q&A box right at the top of your screen. Go ahead and put your questions in there. We have a team that is responding in the chat during the session. And we will save a few minutes at the end for some live Q&A. But just a heads up, make sure that you include your email address, because if we don't have time to get to all of your questions, we want to be able to reach out to you after the call. So today's session is one that I seriously am genuinely excited for. We have heard from so many appraisers with real questions about mobile. Will it be required? How will it be used with UAD 3.6? Will it actually help me or slow me down? Can I use it offline? And what changes when data is expected? There's more data that is now expected within the report. So with UAD 3.6 here and guidance continuing to evolve, mobile is showing up in more workflows, more conversations across the industry. So what better time to have our subject matter expert joining us? We're going to cover two things today. First, we'll have a conversation on UAD 3.6 versus 2.6 and what appraisers need from mobile in the field. And then also we'll get a sneak peek of our upcoming mobile app focused on the fundamentals and how it connects to Workbench. So, Kevin, thank you so much for being here. We are so happy that you are able to join us. Before we jump into mobile questions, can you maybe just give us a little bit of, ground us in your background? How long have you been an appraiser? What led you to the technology side of the business?
Hi, Kim and Evelyn. First, thank you both for inviting me onto this podcast. I've heard how popular these talks have become with appraisers, so it's an honor to be with you. So my background, I'm a certified residential appraiser in New York City, and I've been with the industry since 1998, so more than 2 decades now. I've always been interested in how technology can make appraisal work more efficient, not just faster, but cleaner with less rework. And that started with experimenting with my own practice, then teaching other appraisers how to use technology, and eventually working on building tools for the industry. So I've worked on 3 different mobile appraisal apps, some experimental and some used by appraisers across the country. And I've incubated projects that leverage cutting-edge technologies such as LiDAR and AI. However, I've also worked extensively in less visible tech, such as MLS data mapping and quality control rules. So I'm very familiar with the full spectrum of technologies available to appraisers. Because I've been both an appraiser and a builder, I feel I'm called to create solutions that solve real-world problems for appraisers, solutions that I would actually want to use myself.
That's fantastic, Kevin. So whenever you talk about problems, what type of problems are you looking to solve when you work on mobile technology for appraisal fieldwork?
Kim, so what I'm looking to do is to replace the appraiser's clipboard. As a matter of fact, I'm looking to replace all the equipment that appraisers have to drag with them to inspection. The clipboard, the camera, even the measuring device. Imagine all of that equipment combined into one device, such as a tablet or a phone. So that device will help you gather data and ensure it is correct. It would take photos and automatically put them in the right place in the report. With some advanced devices, it would even help you measure and draw your floor plan. And when you're done, it will automatically sync back to your office where if you have an assistant or you use a data entry service, they can work on it while you're doing other inspections. So imagine showing up to inspection with just one device in hand, and when you're done, you are confident that you have collected everything you need for appraisal with no fear of having missed anything. So the image that I have in my head is this: how would Iron Man inspect a home? Would he use a pen, paper, and measuring tape? Of course not.
Never.
He would say, Jarvis, scan this home from top to bottom, create 3D floor plans, count and categorize all the rooms, analyze any issues, and provide a complete property report for my review. Well, that's exaggerating, of course, but not by too much. The technology to do that, to do a lot of this, exists today. So, I've often thought that real estate technology, what we call prop tech, lag behind other sectors like fintech, financial technology. Even though real estate is the largest asset class in the world, well, that's starting to change now. Innovations like mobile technology, AI, and data automation are now reshaping how work gets done in our field. So my job and the problem I'm focused on solving is bringing those capabilities to appraisers in a way that feels practical, makes them more productive, and helps them deliver better work to their clients.
Thank you, Kevin. I can actually picture some of our appraisers dressing up like Iron Man and going to these properties and trying to talk to Jarvis. That's fantastic. Hopefully they don't have their clipboard with them as
Yep, yep.
well. You brought up something that I think is interesting, which is prop tech. We never talk about prop tech, right? You
Yep,
hear fintech everywhere. It's all over LinkedIn. It's all over news feeds. It's like
that's
if you get
right.
the TLDR newsletter, they're talking about fintech. Nobody talks about prop tech. But yet, property inspection is the root of all of these real estate transactions. It's where everything starts, is valuing that property. So
Yep.
that's fantastic. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So now let's go ahead and jump into a topic that is on everyone's mind, which is UAD36.
Yep.
So first, how is building mobile solutions? Because like you said, I mean, you've been in this industry now for 2 decades doing this, right? So
Yep.
how is it different now versus UAD26? What is it different? What's different when it comes to building mobot solutions?
Yep. Kim, before I move forward, I seem to have lost my sharing ability. So if someone in the back, if one of our backend team can fix that, I won't be able to share later. I'm actually having a blank screen here and all.
Okay.
So, okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
yeah, so Kim, yeah, right. UAD 3.6. I mean, that's the elephant in the room. That really is the core question. And yes, UAD 3.6 captures significantly more structured data than UAD 2.6 did. But I'm going to say something that might surprise a lot of people. With a well-designed mobile workflow, UAD 3.6 data collection can actually feel more logical, can feel more simple than 2.6. And here's why. So UAD 2.6, the old, our legacy, UAD 2.6 is forms first. So everything revolves around static forms like 1004, 1025, 1073. The data set exists, but it lives inside the form. So inspection is pretty straightforward. You go to property, take photos, measure, wrote notes, and later you try to fit everything into that form. So, and the legacy mobile tools that we have today reflect that, mostly linear checklists that mirror the report. And that worked because the form was the product. But UAD 3.6, now that's different. That's data first. So instead of filling out a predefined form, you are actually building a structured data set that generates a dynamic report. So the report isn't the source of truth anymore. The data set is. And here's why that matters in the field. In UD 3.6, inspection decisions, they unlock downstream logic. So what that means is that what you enter early determines what comes next. Like which questions appear, what photos are required, and sometimes what sections even exist. What sections pop up or not don't pop up. So the order starts to matter more, and what's required becomes more contextual. And finally, missing a key detail is less forgiving because if you miss a key detail, it can cascade into broken logic and rework later. Now, the upside though is that a good mobile app with a good workflow can take that complexity and make it feel simpler. Instead of memorizing forms or guessing what you need later, the app can guide you as the inspection unfolds, surfacing what matters for this property at this moment. So you can leave the property confident the inspection is actually complete.
That's fantastic, Kevin. So, I mean, that's a major difference, right? And you brought up a good point in that UAD 26 it was controlled by a form. And now that's completely out the window. So how is the experience now different for appraisers?
So, Kim, here's what the difference looks like in practice for appraisers on the field. So, under 2.6, you would inspect the property. What you said before, you take photos, take notes, and then you rely on memory, or somehow, chicken scratches, right, on your, clipboard, to later figure out, to remember everything, and you try to figure out later whether you had everything you need. If something was missing, you usually found out later that night. It's like, oh my goodness, I missed this thing at the property. But with the 3.6, UAT 3.6 mobile workflow, all that guessing goes away. As you enter information, the inspection flow adjusts to what you're actually seeing. The app surfaces the questions and the photo requirements that matter for this property instead of pushing you into a generic checklist. So the result is that you're not memorizing forms or thinking 3 steps ahead. You're focused on the inspection in front of you. And when mobile does that well, 3 things happen naturally. Number one, you collect the right data at the right time. Number two, the workflow adapts instead of locking you into that rigid path. But most importantly, number three, you leave the property knowing that the inspection is actually complete. And that's the experiencing we're designing toward with Sky Mobile, which is the app that we are building from the ground up for UAD 3.6. We're not trying to add more stuff, but we're removing uncertainty from the field.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for the insight into how mobile workflow guides UAD 3.6 inspection. So in regards to the mobile app, what are the core tasks a mobile solution has to handle well?
Kim, that's a really good question. And for me, the answer isn't about having the flashiest features. It's about trust. So if appraisers don't trust the tool that they're using in the field, they won't use it consistently. I mean, we found that time and time again. No matter how advanced it is, no matter what the technology you give them, hey, look at all this fancy stuff. If they don't trust it, they're just not going to use it. So here are a few core principles that we are building around. First, it must not ever lose work. That's not negotiable. If I take photos, write notes, if I sketch a house, or I enter data, I need to know that work is safe. Even if the app crashes, the battery dies, or I lose service, appraisers they'll forgive a lot, right? You have slow loading, maybe the UI is a little bit awkward, but they will never forgive lost inspection data.
Yes. Yes.
So true.
Yeah.
Yes.
The second principle that we're building is that the technology, it has to support the way appraisers already work, not force a new workflow. So the worst mobile tools, a matter of fact, the worst technology are solutions looking for a problem, right? You say, hey, look at all this cool technology, and let me find a problem to solve. No. Good technology should feel like that's helping you do what you already do, just with less friction and less cleanup later. Okay? And then third, the fundamentals have to be rock solid. So all the advanced technology in the world, it doesn't matter if the basics aren't right. So at ACI and at our parent company, First American, we have access to a lot of data and some very advanced technology. And I have a background of implementing cutting edge tools into mobile workflows. But that technology should augment the fundamentals, not replace them. We're not replacing people. We're not replacing judgment. It should augment the fundamentals, augment the appraiser. So if we don't get the basics right, reliable field work, clean captures, smooth handoff back to the desk, then none of the advanced features matter. And that mindset is really what led us to building Sky Mobile the way we are. Now, Kim, I was going to give a sneak peek, but I appear to not have access to share. I could talk my way.
You should be able to, Kevin.
Let's see.
I just moved your screen share over so that our audience can see. So you should be able to go ahead and share because we can see your screen. We can see Sky Mobile.
Oh, you can see the Sky Mobile. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect. All right, I can just okay. Oh, perfect. All right, I'll just talk. Hopefully, the screen will move along with the with as I move. Okay. So with that as context, I do want to show everybody a very small preview of what we're building. So just to set expectations, this is a sneak peek, not a full demo. We're still in the middle of building this. So today I'm going to stay high level. I'm going to talk about the kinds of capabilities we're designing and show a visual that illustrates how mobile and Workbench are meant to work together. As we get closer to release and these features lock in, we'll start sharing deeper walkthroughs in future podcasts. Okay, so I'm gonna be so everybody, apologies if I'm a little awkward because I'm gonna be sharing. I can't see anybody or anything or even my own screen share, so I'm gonna be doing this in faith that I'm on the right screen. Okay, okay.
We got
so
you,
I'm
Kevin.
gonna.
Yeah, we got you. All good.
Is everybody seeing the list over here? Sky Mobile?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is what I mean when I talk fundamentals. As I noted before, we will certainly be putting some very innovative and advanced capabilities, but the coolest technology in the world means nothing if the foundation is not strong. And experimental tech, well, it fails sometimes. It's the dark secret in the industry, right? LiDAR has drift. AI has hallucinations or confabulations, right? I'll talk about the difference at the next talk, okay? But technology fails sometimes, right? And even when it works, appraisers don't always want to use it in every single situation. So our priority with Sky Mobile is simple: get the basics right first. And these are the fundamentals we're building on. First, Sky Mobile is a true standalone mobile app. This is not a web page that we squeeze on the phone. It's a real mobile app downloaded from Apple App Store and Google Play Stores. And that matters because it leads directly to the second fundamental in that it works offline. Inspections happen in basements, rural areas, new construction, all kinds of places where service is spotty or non-existent. So offline capability is not a nice to have, it is a must have. If
We
you're
get so
physically
many
able,
questions about that, Kevin.
Yes.
We get
yes,
so like when we reached out, not to I completely just kiboshed your presentation. I'm so sorry. But
no worries.
we
Mhm.
saw an influx of questions coming in right before this session. And it was people were asking about offline capabilities
Yeah,
because we have so many appraisers in rural areas. So I'm so glad that you brought this up today. So thank you for sharing that. And you can go ahead and continue.
yeah, absolutely. No, we get that question all the time. And it's just it's fundamental, right? If you're physically able to do the inspection, the app should let you keep working. Like photos, notes, sketches, data. You should not have to worry about getting a signal. Okay? And then the third fundamental is seamless syncing with Workbench. So mobile and desktop, it shouldn't feel like two separate systems. It's just two ways of working on the same appraisal. So I'll talk more about this in the next slide if I can get to it. But the core idea is simple. You shouldn't be uploading, downloading, managing files or versions. The system should take care of that for you.
Mhm.
And job management, it ties closely to that thinking, right? They'll see orders, statuses, appointments, and due dates in either place without managing two systems. I'll show you what that looks like on the next slide. Okay, and then workflow flexibility matters because one thing I found out from talking to appraisers all over the country, appraisers do not inspect the same way. That's why you do not try to force people into a certain workflow. Flexibility matters, and the goal isn't to force a new process, is to support the one that appraisers already trust. Okay, and sketching, photos, notes. These are the core of inspection work, and they have to feel natural in the field, not like data entry. So we already have some solid solutions here, but we're also actively exploring some pretty innovative approaches. Okay, but I'll save details for that, for future sessions. You also notice that we did mention, advanced features and data automation. We marked that as upcoming, so that's intentional. We absolutely plan to introduce advanced capabilities, but only after the fundamentals are rock solid. Okay. All right. I'm gonna try to advance to the next slide if it's possible. Okay. Are you seeing the
Perfect.
workbench? Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So everybody, what you're seeing here is really one workflow across two screens. Sky Mobile and Workbench are designed to stay in sync. So changes made in one will automatically show up in the other without you having to think about it, right? There's no uploading files, downloading files, emailing things around. Okay, that kind of manual handoff is clunky. It breaks easily, and it's how people end up with multiple versions of the same appraisal. Okay, here, thinking is passive. It just happens. It just works. From an appraiser's point of view, that means that you can see the same information in either place, whether it's your orders, your appointments, your due dates. Imagine taking, hey, what do I have to do for tomorrow? You take it out of your pocket and you can see all your due dates, all your appointments, your current statuses, and you can update it on either side. You can update on mobile, you can update on a Workbench, and the updates, the data, it flows both ways. Here's a bigger point. It's not just you moving between devices, it's the whole workflow moving together. So whether it's the appraiser in the field, an assistant in the office, a data entry service helping to populate data, or maybe even your supervisory appraiser reviewing and signing, everyone is working from the same appraisal, not passing files around. So you're not managing two systems, you're just choosing the device that makes sense at the moment. And that becomes especially important under UAD 3.6, where inspection data drives so much of what happens in the report. So mobile is not meant to replace desktop, and desktop isn't meant to replace the field. They're meant to stay connected. And that continuity is what reduces rework. So at a high level, these are the fundamentals and the directions ACI is building toward with Sky Mobile.
Fantastic, Kevin. Thank you so much. We have so many questions that are coming in, but I think for this, Evelyn, you want to jump in and put Kevin in the hot seat since you're the one that's
Yep.
used to being in the hot seat for some live
Oh,
Q&A?
I would
Uh-oh,
love
uh-oh.
to. Yeah, right? The irony, everyone listening, is like Evelyn usually rarely leaves any time for Q&A, and now she gets to host it. But thank you for all of that information, Kevin. We do have quite a few questions that are coming in. A lot that you did answer, though, through that walkthrough, right? Are we going to have offline capabilities? Absolutely. So I'm going to stick to some of the higher level ones that I noticed that came through, and I'm kind of combining a few of them. They
Okay.
have themes overall here. Again, that was a lot of info, but in a really, really good way. So every time we start talking about mobile, right, all of these questions start pouring in. Like Kim noted, they've been pouring in for months. It's the most requested topic we've had since we started talking about UAD 3.6. So, I'll shoot these out. We'll just have a conversation about it,
Okay.
right? I think
Awesome.
the most predominant question that keeps coming in different ways is elaborating more on that offline functionality that you spoke about before. Specifically, we got it. Well, what happens exactly when I'm in the field and I have no service? Am I stuck? What do I do?
Yeah. That is a great question, Evelyn, and it comes up all the time whenever I present
All the
anywhere.
time.
Whether I'm presenting to appraisers or lenders or even GSCs, they always ask me, "Oh, will you be offline?" Right? It comes up all the time. And myself, I deal as a New York City appraiser. I deal with this as appraiser, right? Because I specialize in condos and co-ops, multifamilies where you go on the basements, elevators where the service it just disappears. So that is exactly why we have been very deliberate about making Sky Mobile work offline. Okay? So the way to think about it is simple. As I said before, if you can physically do the inspection, the app should let you keep working, right? You shouldn't start, oh no, I gotta get a signal before I can start working again, right? So
Right.
the photos, notes, sketching, measurements, inspection data, they all work without connection. You don't have to stop or change how you inspect. Now, there's a caveat here. Of course, there are some things that naturally require internet, right? Like live maps, data pulls, AI-driven
Sure.
features, which we'll talk about in the future, okay, right? When you're offline, those things they just pause. They don't break anything. So, and when you get connectivity back, then everything just syncs automatically in the background. There's nothing for the appraiser to press, right? Like you have to press this and upload or whatever. Nothing for you to press. No uploading, no managing versions. The goal of offline is this: just fewer things to think about when you're in field. It will just work, yeah, and it will work offline.
Yeah, absolutely love that because you're right. Appraisers ask that one specific question in so many different flavors of that one specific
Yep,
question all the
absolutely.
time, right? All sorts of different examples come through with that. And you nailed it because I have the privilege of working side by side with Kevin, right, with Workbench and connecting the worlds of mobile and Workbench. And, as Kevin noted, they're the same for
Yeah.
you as users. They are the same. Wherever you
Mm-hmm.
create the order, they're both going to be the same. It's just dependent on which one are you using for
Yep.
your day. Are you inspecting or are you at your desk? So it's really great to have that synergy between the two. Okay, next question is, but how is the mobile app actually going to make my inspection faster, easier? You
Yep.
did touch on this a lot, previously in talking about the differences between 2.6 and 3.6 and how logistically the layout in the mobile application might simplify. But could you elaborate on that one as well for our
Yeah.
users?
Absolutely, Evan. And that's a very fair question. 'Cause we get that a lot, because you still have a lot of resistance, right? To using,
Yes.
mobile solutions. We get the question a lot from appraisers, right? And it's a fair question because if mobile doesn't actually make inspections easier, then it's not worth changing anything. So
Right.
the biggest benefit isn't just typing faster, but it's reducing friction and rework. Rework meaning you have to do things twice or you have to do
Mm-hmm.
things again, right? So a lot of the inspection time is spent remembering, well, what do I need? What do I need later? Which photos do I take? What order? What order the photos? You have multiple bathrooms or multiple things. Okay, well, this room was photo number one. I have to write down somewhere the order. Appraisers will
Yeah.
use tricks, right? I used to take photos of addresses and then I have to write down somewhere in the clipboard, like, okay, this is photo number one, this is photo number two, right? A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
inspections and also trying to remember what details matter. Well, this is FHA. Did I do this? Do I do that? Right? You're trying to remember all that kind of stuff. But a good mobile workflow is surfaces automatically. What matters while you're at the property? It tells you what you need while you're at the property, not after you've left. So when photos, notes, sketches, and data are captured once, and then we automatically put them in the right place for you, so that what you see in the field and when you get back to office is all there. You eliminate
Mm-hmm.
double work, what we call rework. And besides that, the real win is that you're leaving the property knowing that you are actually done, which saves time by avoiding revisions, follow-ups, and return trips, which no appraiser wants to do.
Right, right. We've heard that a lot too. And I mean, ultimately, we're providing the ultimate convenience, right? You don't
Yeah.
have to remember any of that anymore. It's at your fingertips, at your disposal. Let us take the guesswork out for you, and you get to focus on just appraising. So I love that. Your passion for this project always gets me really pumped and excited. So appreciate that. I think then this flows really great into the next question, which again comes in many different ways from different folks. And we kind of touched on it at the beginning when we said, you pointed out your goal is to get rid of the clipboard. It's to get rid of anything extra because we want to give you a one-stop shop. So
That's right.
That being said, a user specifically asked, do I actually have to use a mobile app to be compliant with 3.6, or can I please keep doing what I'm doing today? And in your, from your purview, Kevin, what would you say is a good answer to that?
Yeah, that's a really important question, Evelyn, and we do get that a lot. And I'm going to dispel some misconception. I'm probably going to surprise some people, with the answer. This answer. The short answer is this: a mobile app is not required for UAD 3.6.
Right.
Okay, it is nowhere in the appendices. If you appendix F1 or the GSE, no one said you have to use a mobile app in order to be able to submit the report. No, it's not a requirement. Mobile is a workflow choice, not a mandate.
Right.
So one thing I always tell appraisers is that, a house is still a house. A garage is still a garage, no matter what data set you're using, right? The fundamentals of inspection haven't changed. What has changed is the nature of the data. So UAD 3.6, it doesn't just ask for more information, it asks for more structured information, right? There are conditionally required fields and even entire sections that only appear when other questions are answered a certain way. So all this, all this logic is all documented by the GSEs, especially in Appendix F1. That's the official URAR reference guide. Okay? So if people are not familiar with it, please go to GSE Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. Okay, you can download that. That will be the official guide to how the URAR is supposed to work. So if you choose not to use a mobile solution, that's absolutely fine. But it does mean you want to be very deliberate in the field. Take plenty of photos, write detailed notes, and really know that reference guide backwards and forwards, right? So you don't miss something that might become required later. Or you can let Sky Mobile take care of all that for you, right? Where Sky Mobile can help is by taking the burden off the appraiser. Instead of trying to memorize all these requirements and worrying what might be, what photos are required, what might be conditionally triggered later, the app will surface what matters while you're standing at the property. So again, the goal isn't to force a new workflow, is to reduce guesswork, rework, and those situations that you realize too late that you missed something. So again, to answer the question, yeah, mobile isn't required, but for many appraisers, especially under UAD 3.6, it is a practical way to leave the property confident that the inspection was done right the first time.
I love that, Kevin. Thank you so much for that. Because, excellent point. Folks can keep doing it the way they're doing it. If that's what your preference is, you're more than welcome to. There's just a lot more, right, to remember, to memorize, to be, an expert in, if you will, as you continue to transition. So I love the way that you answered that. And we do have more questions. I do apologize, though. I see we're coming up on time. So I'm going to take all those questions back, and Kevin and I will collaborate, and we'll get back to some folks. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back on over to Ms. Kim so we can close out today's session.
Thanks, Evelyn.
Thank you. Thank you both. Fantastic questions that are coming in. And yes, you're right. I mean, there's just a flood of questions. You guys are fantastic. Just a reminder though, please make sure that you share your email address, contact information so that we know, so that we can get back to you. I see some anonymous questions coming through, and after this call drops, we don't have any way of reaching back out. But before we wrap, I do want to share what's coming up next in the series so that you guys can get it on your calendar now. So our next session is March 19th, and we will be discussing migration and the bigger picture. So we're going to zoom out and connect the dots across standards, workflow changes, what migration really looks like in practice, including how to plan and sequence it without creating chaos for you or your team. And Kevin, you're going to be joining us again April 2nd. Kevin will be back for the industry's second hot topic, which is AI. So I'm super, super excited for this session because it is something that we talk about pretty much on a daily basis. We're going to be discussing AI and practical automation for valuations, really focused on just automation that removes the busy work and improves consistency for appraisers. So thank you again for your time today. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you've been super busy heads down on mobile. Can't wait to see what you come out with here over the next couple of months. Evelyn, so brilliant. Thank you always for being an awesome co-host. And thank you, audience, for being here. We appreciate you being part of these conversations, and we will see you on March 19th.
Thanks,
everybody.
Kevin. Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks,
all.
Evelyn. Thanks, Kim. Take care.